So, here it is, mindfulness in everyday life, and all the things, as you can see on the left, that mindfulness can bring. And for those of you that are not familiar with positive psychology, I will just give you a really brief introduction. Positive psychology, which is part of my training, is the scientific study of human flourishing. It's about seeking not the perfect life, but the optimal life. So we look at what makes people happy and what makes people successful, and study that and use the research to create tools to bring to people like you, to bring to communities, to bring to countries. So let's move ahead with our slides. So I have a question for you. And my question is, have you ever read a page and you get to the bottom of the page and you have no idea what you just read? I can't see you, so I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but the chances are many, if not most of you, have had this experience. Well, if so, you are not alone. A Harvard study done by Killingsworth and Gilbert found that our minds wander nearly 47% of the time. In other words, the study shows that nearly half of the time we are doing one thing, we are thinking of something else. That is significant. So let's talk a little bit about why and why mindfulness. So we are living in an age, as we know, where there is an epidemic of anxiety and depression and, unfortunately, increased rates of suicide, all of which have only skyrocketed since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to a recent survey that the CDC did, 30% of American adults show symptoms of anxiety, depression, or both. What's going on? Well, what's going on is that, first, we live in a digital world, and our hyper-connectivity can be a wonderful thing. Here we are on Zoom today. It keeps us connected, but it also has downsides. We do not have an off switch to quiet our minds. The external stimuli that surrounds us is constantly pulling our attention in many different directions. And as a result, we are training our brains to be in a state of continual partial attention. With all this technology and a 24-hour news cycle and the constant demands of connection through text and email and social media, it's increasingly challenging to manage our time and our attention. I love this cartoon. What is that? Oh, that's just my mind. We are so busy moving from one thing to another, trying to keep up with the very demands on our attention, that it can leave us incredibly exhausted. It causes us to be less productive, more distracted, and less focused. How can we find calm? Well, COVID has both magnified our existing stressors and created some entirely new ones, as we've been living with this unprecedented and heightened amount of uncertainty and fear and isolation, and for many people, loneliness, as well as a struggle to maintain a work-life balance. And for all of these stressors, mindfulness can be a huge help. So before we talk about the specifics of mindfulness and what it actually is and how to apply it in our lives, I'd like for us to experience a practice together so you can get a taste of what it feels like and its benefits. So I first want to forewarn for anyone who is driving to be mindful of the road. That is the most important thing, is your safety. And I understand that Many of you may be in the middle of doing something else, or having your lunch, or taking care of children, or this is a real short time that you've carved out. So you can just listen. If you're not able to really immerse yourself, I think it will be helpful no matter what. For those of you that are able to, I invite you to join me for this brief guided visualization, which will help introduce the concept of mindfulness. So I'm going to ask you to think about a place that if you could snap your fingers right now, you could transport yourself to the most peaceful place you can imagine. Think about where that would be. Maybe it's a childhood home or a vacation spot. It can be real or imagined. And it may be helpful to close your eyes and just imagine in this moment that you are there in this place. Just picture yourself in this peaceful place where you love to be. And then in your mind, look around and notice what you're surrounded by. The sights, the colors, the objects. What is it that's around you in this calming place? Do you notice any sounds? Maybe it's quiet. Maybe you hear some sounds of nature or people nearby. And then notice what you're doing there. Maybe you're sitting or standing or moving or lying down. Just notice. If you're sitting, what are you sitting on? If you're moving, what are you doing? And how does it feel to be there? Just take a moment to take that in and notice how it feels. And now take a nice deep breath in, breathing in the peace and the calm of this place. And then exhale. I'm going to ring the sound of a chime. And as you listen to the sound, just bring yourself back to your desk or your chair, and you can open your eyes. Welcome back. So perhaps at the end, if anybody would like, they can share where it is that they went to during this guided visualization. And there are a couple of interesting things that I'd like to point out about this exercise. And the first is that almost always people imagine themselves in nature. Oftentimes it's the beach or on a mountain or in a field of flowers. Very often, without even prompting, we imagine ourselves connecting to nature. And this is important because the research shows that feeling connected to the outdoors has great psychological benefits, such as improved well-being and reduced anxiety. Nature has this tendency to take us outside of ourselves and connects us to something larger. For many people during the pandemic, they felt a need to connect with the outdoors and take a walk daily. Secondly, we can notice in this exercise the power of the mind. Our minds are the greatest source of our stress. Many of us have anxious thoughts. We have worries about the future. Sometimes we catastrophize. These are the sources of our daily lives, and they can be stressful. But our minds can also be the source of calm and relaxation if we train ourselves to do it. And this exercise shows that in just a few short moments, we can use the power of our imagination to connect with an experience that's pleasant and calming and can activate the body's rest and digest response. So we can then use our minds in ways to be quiet, to calm ourselves, and to create an ease in the body. So we have this capacity to be fully immersed in our experience as it's happening, to be fully there. So this exercise really empowers us to understand the definition of mindfulness. So here it is. Mindfulness is paying attention to what is actually happening in the present moment with an open mind. Now, as you can see in this illustration on the slide, there is a dog and a person, and they're taking a walk. And as you can see, the human's mind is filled with all sorts of things that are not actually happening in that moment, while the dog is aware of just what is in the present moment, right in front of him or her. Mindfulness trains our minds to pay attention to what's happening as it's happening. And as you could feel from that guided visualization, when we imagined a peaceful place, when we put ourselves someplace and fully immersed ourselves in that moment, we weren't busy thinking or doing or worrying. We were fully present. And that is almost always very peaceful and calming. So much of the time, we are here in the present in our physical body, but not in our minds. And mindfulness brings our awareness to the present moment where we are not distracted by ruminations from the past or worries about the future. There's this beautiful quote by Eckhart Tolle: "The power for creating a better future is contained in the present moment. You create a good future by creating a good present." So let's talk for a moment about stress and the effects of stress on the body. Now, we know that when back thousands of years ago, when we were cavemen and cavewomen, we had to worry about our survival. And sometimes there would be a saber-toothed tiger lurking in the bushes, or we had to worry if the berry that we picked up was poisonous. And so our bodies would go into fight or flight mode for our survival. Well, this has great effects of stress on the body. So in response to this fight or flight mode, our body's sympathetic nervous system kicks in, and there's a sudden release of hormones that instigates this fight or flight mode. Well, today we don't have those stressors. We don't have to worry about the tiger and the poisonous berry, but our brains are still wired to protect us from stress and still respond in the same way. So no matter the stress, we may respond with physical symptoms such as a pounding heart, or sweating, or tightening muscles, or shortness of breath, or digestive issues, or we get flush in the face. And these are the body's response to stress. Now, scientific research has shown that our brain's wiring is malleable. It is not fixed. And this ability of our brain to change structurally and functionally on the basis of environmental input and exercise is known as neuroplasticity. When we practice mindfulness, we are retraining our brain to focus on the present moment. And as we practice with consistency and regularity, our brain is creating new neural pathways, making this sense of quiet and calm in the mind and body more easily accessible. It's important to note, however, that like learning an instrument or building a new skill, mindfulness is a practice. So you can think of it when you practice mindfulness, which we're going to get into shortly, as doing bicep curls for your brain. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits of mindfulness. So as we develop a mindful practice, you will notice there are many benefits. This is grounded in research. So mindfulness can help us with an improved focus, attention, and memory. It increases our efficiency and our productivity, boosts our creativity. It increases our ability to regulate our emotions. It helps us with our work-life balance, improves our sleep and our heart health, helps us become more kind and compassionate, and increases our overall health and well-being. Additional benefits include less stress, less anxiety, less depression, less chronic pain, reduced levels of burnout and exhaustion. Very important. Now, the breath is always with us. So when we bring our awareness to our breath, we are activating what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. And that triggers a relaxation response, which is the opposite of our body's stress response. So when we have that intense acute stress, that's the sympathetic nervous system activating and triggering fight or flight mode. When we use the breath and calm the body, that triggers this rest and digest mode called the parasympathetic nervous system. And with mindfulness, we often use the breath and the body to anchor our attention to the present moment, as they are always with us. The breath and the body are always with us. So I like to use this analogy where you are the boat, okay? And the water, the sea, is life. As we go through our lives, there are days when the water is calm and the boat is just hanging out on the sea, and it's just, water's quiet and calm. The boat's not going anywhere. There are other days and other moments throughout our day where life may be turbulent, it may be busy and stressful. And so our boat, we get knocked around, right, through these moments in our day. The anchor is our breath. The breath is what enables us to anchor our attention, to stabilize it, to increase our awareness and connect with our body. So we can use the breath and the body to anchor our awareness when we are feeling pushed around by the turbulent, stressful waters around us. So now what I'd like to do is invite you to do a brief meditation on the breath and body. And this is, as I said, a fundamental way to practice mindfulness because the breath and body are always with us. And all you have to do is just sit where you're sitting. And my first invitation to you is to settle in and just to get into a comfortable position in the body wherever you are. So you want to just make sure that you're in a comfortable position. If you want to stretch your neck, you can move it side to side or roll it back and forth. Just settle in. If it's comfortable for you, I invite you to gently shut your eyes, or if you prefer, you can just hold a soft, steady gaze downwards. So we're just going to take a few moments to practice this brain training and exercise our focus and attention. So let's experiment and bring our attention into our bodies for the moment. Can you just pay attention to the sensations in your body. Just bringing your awareness right now into the body, and just notice how it feels to sit. Can you feel the connection with your body and the points of contact with the chair beneath you? Just noticing. Can you feel the weight of your body as gravity pulls it downward? Can you notice your hands and the felt sensations of your palms or fingertips resting on whatever is beneath them? Can you just gently scan your body using your attention to see if there's any tightness or tension? Just taking a moment to become self-aware, using your attention to notice. Are you clenching your jaw? Are you squinting your eyes? And if you can notice, see if you can just bring a little sense of letting go, relaxing the muscles in the face, relaxing the jaw, relaxing the shoulders and the neck and your back. Just taking a moment to be here. Just taking a moment to soften the body, letting go, inviting in relaxation in this present moment of your day. And as you notice that your body becomes more relaxed, I invite you to notice the rhythm of your breath. Just notice your body breathing. Just taking 2 or 3 deep breaths. And if you can, inhaling through the nose. And a nice exhale, letting go. And again, a deep inhale, breathing in. And a nice exhale. And one more time, a big inhale, breathing in. And a nice exhale, letting go. And before we open our eyes to end our meditation, just take a moment to notice how it feels to be where you are. The only place we ever are in our entire lives is right here in this moment. And yet we spend so little time paying attention to just being where we are. And notice perhaps in this moment that you are okay. Notice that just by using the breath and the power of our attention, we can bring ease and relaxation into our minds and bodies. It's an incredibly powerful tool. So again, I'm going to end with the sound of the chime. You can just take it in, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Welcome back to this present moment. And I'd like to share this beautiful quote by Viktor Frankl, who was a Holocaust survivor and a psychoanalyst. And he wrote that between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So the very essence of mindfulness is the ability to pause and bring our awareness to the present so we can then make wise choices for us and for those around us. And mindfulness helps us create that space. It's space to think and space to breathe. When we practice mindfulness, we take ourselves off of autopilot and we create that space, and we can listen better, and we can realize that there's a space between a moment of anger and lashing out. And there's a space between a moment of joy and noticing and savoring how it feels in our body and in our heart. When we take the time to pay attention and bring our awareness to that space, we see beauty where we didn't notice it before. And we see growth and transformation and change where before we may have felt incapable of seeing those possibilities. So creating this space is really about a chance to respond rather than react. So here's a tool that I love to share with clients and students. It's called the stop tool. And in the time it takes us to breathe in and out, we can really gain perspective. So the tool is simple. S is for stop what you're doing. That's the first step. Stop what you're doing. T is for take a breath or two. And O, observe. What am I noticing? What am I feeling in my body? What am I feeling in my heart? What am I thinking about? Just observing in that space. And P is proceed. What am I needing right now? What will be helpful to me? What will be comforting to help me move into the next moment? Using a tool like the stop tool sometimes can remind ourselves that the anger about our kids' laundry thrown on the floor isn't serving us. Or we realize that the person who just cut us off in traffic did not do it as a personal attack. Taking a pause, right? Using a tool to create that space can help us let the mind rest in the present moment. And that's one of life's greatest luxuries. And guess what? This luxury costs nothing at all. And it's available to us anytime, anywhere. So it's also important to note that mindfulness can be practiced anywhere. So we can practice mindfulness while we're brushing our teeth, noticing what do the bristles of the brush feel like as they move across the enamel? What's the taste of the toothpaste? What does the foam that's developing feel like on our lips? Even when we're eating a piece of chocolate or eating anything for that matter, we can just slow down and be present with that experience. What is the texture of what I'm eating? What is the color? Does it have an odor? What is the taste as I start to notice it on my tongue? Same with sipping a cup of coffee or tea. As I hold a hot mug, what does that temperature feel like in my hand? What does the smoke look like from the heat as it wafts from the mug, and the sensation on my lips as it touches the liquid? Same with standing in line. Rather than reaching for our phones, can we just look what's happening around us, noticing the colors, the sights, the people, the beauty? And washing dishes, you'd be surprised. Washing dishes, if we take mindfulness to the art of washing dishes, it may feel like a different experience. What does it feel like to move our hands across the pan? The warm water as it washes over us. So here's a challenge for you. Can you pick one activity and bring a mindful awareness to do it with your full attention? right? Just think of something that you're already doing in your day and do it with your full awareness and attention. And lastly, I'd like to put in a plug to encourage you to unplug. According to Pew Research, 60% of working parents report feeling always rushed, and 80% of working adults with or without children would like to have more time to spend with loved ones. Giving yourself the gift of more time is a quick and convenient way to a happier life. And as author Anne Lamott said, almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. Mindfulness brings us into the present moment and allows us to quiet the mind and calm the body. And it is one of the greatest luxuries. I'll leave you with this final quote by Victoria Moran. In this moment, there is plenty of time. In this moment, you are precisely as you should be. In this moment, there is infinite possibility. So that is all I have in terms of my slides. I will share with you my website is www.karenaustin.com. For those of you that are listening, it's CarenOsten. And you can follow me on social media at Karen Austin. On my website, I do have a sign up for a monthly newsletter that I put out, which talks about my offerings, whether they be classes or articles that I'm writing, as well as my coaching practice. So I hope that you enjoyed these experiential practices together. I hope that you will find a way to bring mindfulness into your everyday life. And now I'm going to stop my screen share, and invite anyone who may have some specific questions to do so.